How's it going, boys? Stuck. Thank you, 22. It's good to be back. You know, I have a few new ideas. We should probably make a video. Yes, we should. I'm gonna go get to that right now. The hell?
Whoa! Careful down there!
What are you doing?
What do you mean? It's Christmas time. We're getting the decorations down.
We're still doing that?
Well, according to Plague we are, and I really don't want to say no to him.
I hate Christmas time.
Well, if you hate it so much, maybe you shouldn't have saved it that one time.
That's it's real solid advice. You know, it's amazing that you're still single.
I'm single because I live with some weird guys in a weird house.
Yeah, well, you know, when life gives you lemons. By the way, you do know that the attic is haunted, right?
What? He's kidding, right?
Hi.
He's fine. Okay, let's get right into it. Tonight I'm going to be making a grappling hook launcher. Will it be good? Probably not, but it's a prototype and you got to start somewhere. So let's get right into it. First I'm going to need to make some sort of template so that I can make a somewhat symmetrical grappling hook. So I'm going to take a piece of cardboard, and I'm going to fold it once and then twice, and then trace this little, I guess, quarter piece of a hook. I'm not good with math. It is just some part of a hook that I'm going to trace along the folds so that I can then cut it and make a big symmetrical thing. Kind of like when you make like a paper snowflake. You remember doing that, right? Like back in first grade? Really busting out the advanced techniques for this project, I know. And then once we have our template cut out, we need to pick our material we're going to make our hook out of. In this instance, I'm going to use 5/32 polypropylene because it's lightweight, kind of flexible, so it should be okay with dealing with impacts. And I'm going to make this thing spring-loaded, so I don't think a metal hook is the way to go. That might be a bit too heavy for the prototype. Now, after cutting the hook out on the bandsaw, I'm going to use this little Dremel-y thingy to kind of clean out those little hook parts in between, because I'm going to want that somewhat smooth. The idea is when it wraps around something, hopefully these little hook parts are going to be what catches the rope. So, you know, we want them clean enough. For sure, a laser cutter or making this with a 3D printer would result in a much more precise hook, but I don't got any of that, so we're going to work with what I do have. On a completely unrelated note, I do have a Patreon, just throwing that out there. I mean, you know, do with that what you will. For the launcher part, I'm going to use this 3/4 inch PVC pipe. This will be what houses the spring and allows me to put the hook inside and compress the spring to fire it. That's about how long it is in this case. If you use the same kind of spring that I'm going to be using, which I'll put a link down in the description, that'll be a good size to have the launcher. Also, I hot glued it to a piece of wood that is this long. And this is going to go down in the back and go up against this end cap that I'll put on the end of the pipe. And on the other end of the pipe, we're going to put this little L catch thing. The idea here is we're going to cut this shape out of it, and I'm going to put a little screw into the side of the hook that will feed down and then push off to the side, and that's how we'll keep it locked into place. And then when you want to fire it, you just push the screw off to the side, and then it flies down the vertical groove. And right, vertical, horizontal, yeah, I think vertical, and then it'll fly out and hopefully reach the intended target and hook onto it. Also, as you can see here, once I've inserted the spring down into the pipe, I'm going to put a screw in the back just to hold everything together. That'll keep the spring in there as well as keep it from firing out the other side when it's compressed. Then we need to make the part of the hook that's going to be inserted down into the launcher. I'm going to use this piece of oak dowel. I think it's about 1 inch. I had used it for a previous project, which is why it's painted black, but you know, it's normally just wood color and that's fine. But to get the right length, I like to just insert a long piece down in there and then mark where it's at when it kind of comes to a stop, when I've compressed the spring as much as I can. That way I know that that's the length that will get the spring fully pushed in, and that's all there is to say about that. Just screw the hook on and then the projectile part is pretty much done. Oh yeah, except for the screw that we need to put in there to act as the sort of catching part for the hook. Also, once I get the screw put into this part, I like to wrap it up with a little bit of painter's tape or electrical tape or something just to kind of cover up those grooves in the screw. You know, you don't want it to be tearing up stuff. Also, it's going to be uncomfortable to push against that, so yeah, tape it. And for the rope part of the hook, I'm going to be using this very low tensile strength rope that I got at Lowe's. I don't like that it's blue. I would have preferred any other color, but this is what I had on me and I didn't want to go to the store because that's where people are and I don't want to see them. Surely I'm not the only one, right? I feel like if you're watching my videos, then you gotta hate people too. In which case, welcome. Thank you for subscribing. If you did. I mean, if not, you know, what are you doing? Treat yourself. Anyway, we gotta do something about all this rope. We can't be running around with that. We gotta put it in something. I'm gonna attempt to put it in this, I think this is a 1-inch PVC pipe with a cap at the end of it. I'm not too optimistic about how this is actually going to work. I feel like the rope is going to get tangled, but we'll wind it up and we'll do a test and find out. Okay, so that went as well as I thought it was gonna, so we're gonna have to try something else to contain all this. I made this little cardboard tapered piece that I think will work a lot better because that way the rope can just be wound up on it and unravel off. That way it shouldn't be tangled, and if there's no resistance, it should fly off pretty smoothly. The cardboard's a little rough though, so this won't be the best test, but the final piece I'll make smoother, but I'll wind it up and give this a try. Well, obviously I like that result a lot better, so I started making the final version of this. Well, final version of the first prototype version. Also out of polypropylene. And I started sanding the edges to try to get it as smooth as possible, but it ended up still being a little too rough for my liking, especially with this spring. You know, it's a fairly strong spring, but I don't trust it to propel all that hard. So I put some aluminum tape over the edges to get it a bit smoother, just so we have as little resistance, as little opportunity for the rope to catch on the edges as possible. Probably on the next version I'll make it CO2 propelled, that way we can get a lot more power out of it. But for now, this is really just to see if I can make something that will work at all. And then once that's done, we just fasten it onto the back of the launcher here, and then we'll go through the tedious process of winding the rope up again, and we will give it another test. And I don't know about you, but I'm feeling pretty good about this. Okay, moment of truth. And I missed it. But lucky for me, the rope doesn't need to be wound up for this to work, so we're just going to reload it and fire again just to test the hook element of this. Okay, that is much more promising. And just to be thorough, let's do one more test with the rope wound up. Okay, yeah, I'm content with this. For a prototype, it's not bad. A lot of things I want to improve, as always. I'd like to eventually get it to fire harder and get probably a motor on there, see if we could actually lift somebody off the ground with this. But for now, I'll take it. And that'll about do it for this one. I hope you enjoyed watching this little prototype development. Also, we got a lot of new subscribers recently, so thank you for that. I hope you like what you see so far. Got a lot of new ideas for videos on the way, so keep an eye out for that. And if you really like what you see and want to help support the channel, consider subscribing to my Patreon. Link will be in the description. And until next time, thank you for watching and have a good night.